Welcome to another morning of GM Tips. GM Rick here. Hope you're doing good. Hope you had a great weekend. Mine was kind of crazy. I ended up leaving my camera in the car, or leaving my cell phone in the car. So now it's with my fiance at work, even though I need it for my work. But I've just said that it's charging and dead, and everybody will understand that. Leaving it in the car, not so much. So I hope everybody had a great weekend. I had an epic weekend with my party this weekend. I will just preface that. The video will go up later. I will put it up on my Reign of Winter ones. Now, mind you, you're not going to get to see the board as much. You just get to see the players. There's a reason why, because my fiance is not too keen on mini GM making the videos. And it's understandable. She's 6. Don't want everybody in the world to know who mini GM is all the time. But you will see a lot of laughter, mirth from the players. And once in a while, you'll see me pass by with I Am Your Father Star Wars shirt on, which I thought was kind of cool to wear. And you get to see how they deal with dragons. And I recommend this, especially as a GM, when running them. Dragons don't have to be all about, I'm going to eat the party. Many of them do, and many of them are that way. But some of them have been around long enough that they like to entertain the whole process of life. And so they toy. And it's a nicer, I won't call it a much nicer version of Smog, but it's kind of like that, where they toy around and enjoy the pontifications that go on. But that's not going to be our topic this morning. So, the topic this morning, I'm going to look at Undead Revisited. And why am I going to do that? Because I think they hit some really classic Undead that you can use for boss creatures or major creatures and encounters or obstacles in your campaign, especially if you have any Undead flair to it. Now, mind you, they got to have somewhat of a reason of being there, and that's part of understanding the ecology of them. And this book right here by Paizo, even if you don't use the stats from there, the information about the ecology of these creatures is beautiful. And no offense to Wizards, because I know Wizards and probably 13th Age and Dungeon World probably do a good job on ecologies. But this, to me, really lays it out. And the ones we're going to visit with this, there's a couple, as you'll see. You'll see the Bodak, you'll see the Nightshade, you'll see the Devourer, you will see the Reaver, which is your Draco Lich, Graveknights, Shadows, Liches, Spectral Undead or Spectral Dead, the Morgue, and the Wights. Now, they give you a nice variation of all different challenge ratings of them, or difficulties. And that's one of the things I like about this book, is it's not just all your all-powerful undead types. Because, again, at low levels, your party is not going to do well against an all-end-all be-all. So that's where a Wight, a Shadow, a not even a Nightshade, a Nightshade would not be good. The Shadow, the Spectral Dead, and the Wights all do decently against lower-level characters. And again, you can make anything a boss that you want, but understanding a little bit about the ecology and what brings them about, what makes them horrific, I think adds to the story, especially when you're spinning it through your characters and your players. Too often they know about the base, and that's the sad thing today. Most players know about the base monsters. No matter what, they've either got a bestiary, they've got a monster manual, they have the DM's portion of a monstering guide or creature guide. So you're going to have a hard time really surprising them. Bugs singing in the background, you get a mini GM serenade. So I'm going to go through some of these. I'm going to pick a few of them. I'm going to pick the Bodak first, because for me, this picture alone is the Bodak. The Bodaks are some of the most nightmarish things. I'm going to read this little section because I think it really characterizes a couple things. I'm going to pick a couple points out of this book and highlight them, because for me as a GM, these are what hooked me on these creatures and using them. A Bodak. We did our best to ignore the screams emanating from the tower attached to the Baron's home and wept silent tears for the loved ones he had sent on grand journeys never to return, at least almost never. The one that did, well, Great Tom, the closest thing we had to a lawkeeper in these parts, swore that he saw someone emerge from the manor just past moonrise. Screamed it, in fact. For 2 whole days it took him to wear himself out. He doesn't speak much now. He insists on wearing a blindfold everywhere he goes. Most folks say he's crazy, but if so, I say this to you, how come nobody's seen the Baron since? Sabrina Telmich, midwife of Stanish Corner. The Bodak are horrific creatures. As you gaze into their eyes, it is a nightmare. And what happens is they transfer and take your own. And they become these dark pits. So, as it says here, yet for some, bearing witness to true horror and supernatural evil does more than twist their minds. It ravages their souls to such a degree that they themselves are transformed, requiring evil so far beyond the normal found in mortals. These rare transformations occur when unprepared mortals venture deep into those extraplanar spaces where humanity was not meant to tread, and the deepest hiding holes of evil places. In these repositories of unholy knowledge, the things are seen that cannot be unseen, which indelibly stain the souls of the foolish. The creatures that emerge from these dark places are mortal no longer. Rather, they are Bodaks, misanthropic husks, whose very eyes smoke with the horror that they've seen, destined to wander places, bringing their terrible visions to the living. So what happens is, the gaze of the Bodak, literally, is what turns and makes Bodaks. And the scary part about them, and mind you, is that they take the very eyes of those that they're gazing into. So their death gaze is what makes another Bodak. And I love this whole thing because they have a little section here that lays it out on the Bodak apocalypse. Because of their ability to propagate through their deadly gaze attack, Bodaks can spread through an area in a frighteningly short period. GMs could set up a scenario where local people speak of people being turned into undead at an alarming rate. And what happens is, it keeps going. So it doesn't stop. And that is the scary thing. Where one Bodak is, there can be thousands. It is a literal plague. Have you guys ever seen the movie Pulse? That is a perfect example of this kind of creature. Where literally, by it coming up to you, you become one of them. It's not even a bite. It's not an energy drain. It's not all these other things. It is literally the gaze, because they have seen such horrors beyond anything humanity should ever see. They then transfer that very thing on the next victim, until the next victim, and the next victim, and the next victim, and the next victim. Bodaks are truly horrors of epic ability. They give you a template in here of one of the Bodaks, and I love this about these books, is they give you, a different type of thing, and they also give you variants. But a sample Bodak is the Taker of Eyes. He's a male Bodak Anti-Paladin 8. He's a CR 16. So, they are at least a 10, without any class levels in them, 9 or 10. You do not want to put this on a party below 7th level. You really don't. But, they can be found everywhere. There's no limit. Who knows where it started, whether it was that somebody went to an abyss plane that they shouldn't have, or a plane of hell, or a plane of Abaddon, or a plane of shadow, or a plane of, I'm trying to think what else it would be, negative energy. Whatever did spawn these creatures, and they have not stopped. Now you can go with larger Bodaks. There can be creatures that are monster sized. They can have multiple heads, like an Etten. The great thing is this template can be put upon any race, any monster. Bodaks can take the form of any monster. They can be goblins, they can be pixies, they can be anything. So you can literally make this a nightmarish plague situation with these type of creatures, where your party has to deal with that. So that's one type of creature. Now, I'm going to pick 3 today. I could pick more. I'm going to tell you all these are greatness. But I'm going to pick my top 3 out of this book, because, for sake of time. The Devourer. I love the Devourer. They are another nightmare. Soul Eaters are consistently an anathema to many, yet daemons aren't the only ones who cherish the taste of a succulent mortal. The undead, known as Devourers, ravenous beings perpetually staving off their own oblivion with yours, are likewise members of the exclusive cadre. Devourers are twisted and damaged creatures beyond the known faces of the plains, and always seem to be fixated on bizarre alien notions, obsessing them with religious intensity. Needless to say, they're terrible company, and as for things that made them, and who and what they are, well, that would be telling. Tigressin the Laughing Fiend. So, these creatures, Devourers, are basically nasty abominations, gaunt giants who have gone beyond the trappings of mundane reality. Basically, they twisted knowledge to the point of where the outer planes turned them into these creatures that literally, as you can see, suck the very life force out of human beings, or the souls. So, they are a nasty deal. Some were former devils, some were demons, some were former humans, other giant creatures. They forsake their own evolution spiritually of what they were for undeath, and that undeath twists them. They pursue bizarre alien notions, things that are very weird and out there. So Cthulhuan things, other type of weird things that normal human minds would twist around. So keep in mind, they are just a scary creature to come upon. I love the Beresthaga template. As you can see, Beresthaga is one nasty, nasty individual. She or he is an oracle, an undead oracle. Now, it's a CR 20. So keep you in mind, this is for your really high-level parties. So you're going to be using these things, even at their base things, against an 11th level party or more. Now, the reason I bring these up, because DMs run out and GMs run out of ideas when players get to high levels. So how do you take them? If you're playing Pathfinder, you can even add mythic tiers, or you can add, I don't know if D&D's actually put in a mythic side yet, where they're hard to kill or just can't be killed unless they come across another type of mythical entity or player. So these things can literally become the bane that keeps reoccurring and reforming to players. And they're scary in the fact that they're going to take your life essence as they go. And so they have an ability called, now they deflect spells, number one. They're immune to anything undead. They got a spell resistance, which is kind of really cool. I like the SRs. But their craziest thing is their energy drain. And their energy drain is what literally wipes people out. So keep that in mind. They are a creature that can devour the very soul. And the devouring of the soul is an ability of their deal, and it's in the book. And literally, the players don't make a save against it. They will take it, and they can't be resurrected. That is the fear of a devourer. If they get you, you're done. You are done, literally, until they are slain. And then at that point, you may come back, you may not. So just keep that in mind. That's another reason I love them. All right, so I'll give you one more. We'll go for 4 today. The Graveknights. I love the Graveknights. I do. Loves me some Graveknight because I think they're a cool creature that was come up. Really, I think I don't know if Monster Manual has them for D&D. If they don't, please convert it because it's a great monster to take into D&D. The dead thing was bored. An entire village drowned in wells nailed to doorways, burned inside the church. As days went on, and the peasants still refused to turn over the rebels, he got creative. Mothers fought each other with hammers to see whose child would live, tortured priests, so blah, 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 blah. He was a nasty, nasty kind of creature. Now, what are they? Basically, they are knights, paladins, anti-paladins, fighters with a lust for battle and the sheer will to win that just takes it to the beyond grave and creates this type of creature. Its punishment is to keep coming back. And unlike liches, Grave Knights almost never plan to return from the last battle. What happens is they come back, and they're tied to something. So you can slay them, but they're tied to something. A sword, an armor. In most cases, it's armor. And magical armor, mind you, so not easy to destroy. So they keep coming back. It goes, though often appeared to despise their existence, they cannot get rid of themselves. They just keep coming back because they have a lust for battle. I love this picture because, to me, that epitomizes the Graveknight. This one's a CR16. Again, another nasty creature to come against. Where are they really nasty? The fact that they come back, that they have a sacrilegious aura within a 30-foot radius that you got to save against, or it affects you with sacrilege, and affects your stats. I mean, it's a nasty thing. They also have a high SR, so it's high spell resistance to deal with. Their perception is really pretty awesome. And they've got a devastating blast. 3 times per day, they can send out a destructive force that, in this case with this guy, is 10d6. In some cases, it can vary, but it's a destructive thing that goes out there. They can also channel negative energy, and they can rejuvenate. One day after they are destroyed, the armor begins to rebuild his body. And that is the nasty thing. The sacrilegious aura, let's see. It has an intense evil and negative within a 30-foot radius. It hinders channeling of positive energy. So if you want, somebody's trying to channel or lay hands or do things as on the cleric side, they almost find it impossible to do. So the Graveknights, I had one in this campaign that I put into Reign of Winter because they went through Darrowfrost, which was one of the side areas they shouldn't have. But they did, and I let my party go play. Unlike many DMs, I don't keep them always to the straight and narrow. I let them go out and have their fun. In this case, this dwarf Graveknight made their life a nightmare. They tried to chop it up. So the war priest afterwards is chopping, Kal-El is chopping up his armor. And they're trying to figure out ways to destroy it because they know it's coming back. So basically they gave it to a planar merchant to get rid of so that it wouldn't come back and find them. But it could. And that's what scared them to death. Just the fact that this Graveknight could appear again and mess with them. That, to them, is a really chilling encounter. And so keep in mind that though you have these kind of things, you've got to twist it in that way that makes them just very fearful of the very thing that they have to deal with. Now, I could do the Morgue, which is one of my other favorites, or the Ravener, which I love to death. But I'm going to pick the Wight, because the Wight gets abused so often, and not looked at as a low-level baddie that really can make someone's life miserable. Now, I love that they have a Winter Wight, a la Game of Thrones, with this actual giant that is battling a party. Alright, so, fog could not cling, but crawling inside my skin swallowed every sound. My heart was pounding, but I could not hear a sound except for the rasp of cold steel and a battle of people breathing their last breaths, echoing everywhere and nowhere. Then, floating out of the fog, I could see their eyes, burning like tiny stars in the frozen sky. They were coming. My fallen friends had already joined their ranks. Death could not be escaped. But too cowardly to take the coward's pass, I knew I would join them soon. They are coming. And they put Bran Stalwart. I love Bran Stalwart. A nod to Game of Thrones with Bran. So, are Wights nasty? Yes, they are. But so often they use barrel Wights or little things, so it's not as nasty to a party. But you should have a Game of Thrones moment with your players, where literally they go into this chamber or cairn, and these eyes light up, and they're piercing, ice blue sparks of essence and malevolence that are coming towards them. The word Wight dates to Middle Age England, where it referred to living humans and was used by Chaucer, Spenser, Shakespeare, and Milton in their writings. However, the word and its Old English and High English German antecedents descend from the Old Norse vatir, which refers to a type of nature spirit or supernatural being. For example, the Landvatir were guardian spirits of the land. The most famous of the Wights was the Barrow Wights of J.R.R. Tolkien, which become the Ringwraiths. Wights are animated corpses infused with dire spirit of unlife and hunger for the souls of the living. At first glance, they seem no different than those withered zombies or even slightly fleshy skeletons, save for the glowing pinpoints of light that burn within their vacant sockets. Many wights are particularly dismembered, desiccated, or withered, or horrible to behold. They sometimes prowl in the midst of the undead, emulating the lurching gait of other undead. See, this is a surprise. You could have a zombie attack, and one of these or two of these be among them, and the party never knows. And see, it's up to you as the GM and DM to create that just air of, I don't know. Like the other day, what I did, the party comes across something from a different world in Reign of Winter. I know, spoiler alert. So just, if you don't want to hear any more of it, please shut it down right now. But the party is looking at what is the husk of an old 1900s early 80s vintage car. But I describe it as a metal wagon. Now, one or two of them had the light of aha go on, but they played it in such a way that they didn't know. What was this metal hulk? Why was it sitting there? Why did it look different than their wagons? What kind of world are they on that use metal wagons? So it's kind of one of those things that if you play your words right and you do things right, your players will be surprised. Now, mind you, most wights are CR5, 6. You can use them with a low-level party as a bat. Now, what's bad about the wights? Well, there's several things. They have a channel resistance against channeling energy to try to destroy them. Okay, instead of healing energy, you channel and destroy. They have Death Watch, which means they're looking for somebody that's close to death to go after. And they do energy drain. They do 1 level per hit on a player. And it's a DC 21, so it's pretty hard to make that roll against Fortitude. And they can also airwalk in greater command, so they can walk across the air in short stints. They are vulnerable to resurrection, but they can create spawns quickly. And in this case, they give you a CR9 Wight Lord. And that can be like your Winter Wight Lord that comes along. I would use the Game of Thrones whole thing because that chills people about wights more than anything else. Before that, I don't think people really feared wights. They are fearsome. And I think for a lower level party, and that's why I threw that one in over one of the other higher level ones, because I think sometimes you got to pick something at a lower level that's going to challenge your players. So these are my picks here from this book, but get the whole book. The ecologies, where, the whys. You can ignore the Golarian unless you're using Golarian as a setting or the Interseed campaign setting for whatever game system you're running. But keep in mind, it gives you just great information, descriptions, treasure types, what all they have with them. I love these books with these ecology type of things because they give you a real dive into the creatures, thinking, the psyche, what makes them tick, why they do what they do. And it's important when you're GMing to do that. So, about 24 minutes. Again, I know I'm going a little longer than 20 minutes. Sorry. But some of these topics are just hard to narrow down below 24 minutes, but I do keep usually there. So I'm going to title this one Undead Revisited, just like the book, with a nod to Paizo Publishing, who made the book, for a great job, well done. It is truly a chilling book on the undead. Utilize them and make them some nasty challenges, obstacles, and baddies in your campaign. Thanks again, GM Rick out.